In a more expanded predicted spoiler-style breakdown of Outlander Season 8 Episode 9, the episode continues immediately after the fallout of Episode 8, showing Jamie emotionally exhausted and increasingly burdened by leadership decisions that are starting to feel irreversible, while Claire becomes more certain that the timeline around them is no longer stable and that history itself may be bending in response to their presence and actions. As the story develops, Claire intensifies her warnings to Jamie, explaining that the events they are witnessing no longer perfectly align with what she remembers from history, which creates a growing fear that they are no longer observers of time but active participants in its disruption, and Jamie is forced to consider that every choice he makes may be accelerating consequences far beyond their control. At the same time, Brianna and Roger's storyline becomes more unstable as they uncover historical gaps and contradictions that suggest someone or something is interfering with records, leading Roger to suspect that time travel consequences are becoming more aggressive and less predictable, while Brianna focuses on protecting their children as she fears another forced relocation through time may be imminent. Back in the main timeline, political pressure around Jamie intensifies as rival factions begin treating him not just as a rebel leader, but as a key destabilizing figure whose existence could alter the future of Scotland and beyond, and this raises the stakes of every interaction he has, making even allies uncertain and forcing him to question who can truly be trusted. The emotional center of the episode deepens when Jamie and Claire finally confront the emotional toll of their journey together, with Claire openly questioning whether their love and survival are worth the continuous destruction around them, while Jamie admits that he no longer believes strength alone will be enough to protect everyone he cares about, creating one of their most vulnerable moments of the season. The tension escalates further when subtle signs of betrayal begin to surface within their trusted circle, as sensitive information about Jamie's movements and plans appears to have been leaked, suggesting that someone close is either being manipulated or secretly working against them, and this realization fractures the fragile sense of safety they have been holding on. As paranoia grows, Jamie begins preparing for a confrontation that feels inevitable. Claire quietly prepares medical supplies and emergency plans in case everything collapses suddenly, and Brianna and Roger experience an unexplained temporal disturbance that suggests another shift in time may be approaching, increasing the sense that separation could happen again without warning. The episode then builds toward its final moments, with a growing sense of inevitability, as characters across timelines feel pressure converging toward a single unseen event, and the idea emerges that certain historical outcomes may already be locked in place regardless of their efforts to resist them. It ends on a heavy cliffhanger tone, with Jamie stepping closer to a confrontation that may define his fate, Claire realizing that healing may no longer be enough to fix what is coming, and Brianna and Roger sensing a final pull across time, closing with the chilling implication that some events are not meant to be changed, only survived. Claire, on the other hand, becomes more focused on preventing immediate physical danger, but she also begins noticing disturbing medical and environmental signs that suggest the instability they are facing is not just political or emotional but may be tied to larger disruptions in the fabric of time itself, making her increasingly concerned that injuries, illness, and survival rates are becoming unpredictable compared to what she knows from history. Meanwhile, Brianna and Roger's storyline intensifies as they attempt to trace the source of the historical inconsistencies they discovered earlier, only to realize that entire records appear subtly rewritten or missing, leading Roger to suspect that repeated time interference is creating echo effects, where past, present, and future are beginning to overlap in dangerous ways. Back in Jamie's world, pressure from opposing forces escalates into open intimidation, with warnings delivered indirectly through messengers and symbolic acts meant to destabilize his leadership, making it clear that the conflict is no longer just physical but psychological, designed to isolate him and break his confidence from within. As paranoia increases, Jamie and Claire begin to disagree more openly about how to respond to the growing threat, with Jamie leaning toward confrontation and control while Claire urges caution and preservation, creating emotional distance between them that feels dangerous, given everything they have already survived together. At the same time, a secondary twist develops as one seemingly minor character begins behaving in a way that suggests hidden knowledge of future events, hinting at either manipulation by external forces or exposure to time displacement consequences, which adds a layer of mystery to who is truly aware of what is coming. The emotional weight of the episode peaks again when Jamie is forced to make a choice that protects the group but risks exposing him personally, reinforcing the idea that leadership is becoming increasingly isolating and that every decision now carries irreversible consequences. Claire, witnessing the emotional toll this is taking on him, privately fears that Jamie is being pushed toward a breaking point, where survival may come at the cost of who he is as a person, not just what he can endure physically. As the episode moves toward its final stretch, Brianna and Roger experience a stronger and more violent temporal disturbance, suggesting that a force shift or major timeline correction event is approaching faster than expected, and they begin preparing for emergency separation once again, unsure if they will remain in the same time period. The closing moments heighten suspense as Jamie prepares for an unavoidable confrontation. Claire braces for medical emergencies that may come without warning, and across time Brianna and Roger feel reality itself destabilizing, leading into a final implication that Episode 9 is not just building toward conflict, but toward a major irreversible turning point in the entire season's timeline. Claire's role becomes increasingly critical as she begins to notice that injuries and medical outcomes are no longer following expected patterns, with some cases healing too quickly and others deteriorating unpredictably, reinforcing her fear that the timeline is no longer behaving like a fixed historical path, but something far more unstable and reactive to their presence. As distrust spreads within Jamie's circle, small moments of hesitation and miscommunication begin to snowball into larger suspicion, and even loyal companions start to feel the pressure of being watched or questioned, creating an atmosphere where silence becomes as dangerous as speech and every decision carries the risk of unintended exposure. Meanwhile, Brianna and Roger's investigation reaches a more alarming stage, as they uncover what appears to be overlapping timelines in historical documentation, where certain events are partially duplicated or erased, leading Roger to theorize that repeated time travel interference may be causing a breakdown in temporal consistency itself. At the same time, Brianna becomes more emotionally driven to protect her children, sensing that whatever is coming next may not allow for careful planning or gradual adaptation, but instead sudden displacement or forced separation that could happen without warning. Back in the main timeline, Jamie is confronted with a situation where he must publicly assert authority in a way that risks drawing direct attention from powerful opposing forces, effectively placing himself in the center of the conflict rather than operating from the shadows, which significantly increases danger for everyone connected to him. Claire and Jamie share another emotionally charged moment as they acknowledge how much they have both changed, with Claire expressing concern that survival has slowly replaced living, while Jamie admits that constant responsibility has made it harder to distinguish between protection and sacrifice. A subtle but important development emerges when signs of coordinated surveillance or tracking appear around the Fraser group, suggesting that their movements are being monitored more closely than ever before, and raising the possibility that someone is actively guiding events toward a predetermined outcome. As tension builds, Brianna and Roger experience another sudden temporal fluctuation that feels stronger and more violent than before, reinforcing the idea that time itself may be correcting or resisting interference, which creates urgency around the possibility that another force shift is imminent and unavoidable. The final stretch of the episode leans heavily into psychological tension, as Jamie prepares for confrontation while internally questioning whether he is still shaping events, or simply reacting to them. Claire prepares for medical emergencies with increasing urgency, and Brianna and Roger brace for separation once again as reality destabilizes around them. The episode closes on a heightened cliffhanger tone, emphasizing that Episode 9 is not just advancing the story but tightening the entire season's conflict into a point where choices begin to lose flexibility, and every character is forced closer to a single irreversible turning point where survival, time, and loyalty all collide.